All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to another GeoGuessr video. Today, as you guys can probably see by the title, we are going over our America's major predictions here. We have 6 very strong competitors: Radu C, MK, Mu, Fao, Gingy, and Orlando participating in Dallas this weekend. So I thought I would give you guys a little bit of a player breakdown perhaps, and maybe go into my bracket predictions as well. Would encourage you guys, after you watch the video, to drop your predictions in the comments down below. Would be much appreciated. Get that engagement up, and hopefully I can give you a response to your bracket predictions as well. Without further ado, let's hop into the breakdown and the bracket. All right, here we are starting off with our breakdown here. The first player that we're going to dive into is the 4th overall seed in the world rankings and the 1st seed for the Americas Major. We got Radu C here sitting at 90 points with a plus 43 round differential. They have 31 wins out of 39 games, which is kind of insane. If you check out his stats, they're looking quite good in everything. His moving is at about 76%, no move 73%. Most of the time, I do feel like it doesn't really get to the NMPZ game, although he's showing at a 59% win rate, which of course is where you want to be at, because anything above 50% is good in any mode. But I feel like a lot of them don't really get to the NMPZ game, so he hasn't really had to showcase as much. But if you look at his 4.5k guesses, he's guessing consistently 64, almost 64% of the time, which is quite insane. And really no surprise, he's one of the strongest competitors in our Americas region, and probably the strongest as looking right now in terms of form. And I saw Radu C actually this weekend, got to hang out with him in person, and we were kind of discussing the bracket and how it could possibly shape out. I know he's aiming for first, but he has told me that, yeah, of course he is safe from, even if he doesn't place in this tournament, he is safe and will be going to Copenhagen regardless. So look out for Radu C this tournament. I think it would be good for him to get a major win under his belt. He obviously won the wild card last year, but getting that stage experience and getting a #1 finish in the Americas Major would certainly be a big goal for Radu, and something that he wants to do. All right, next player that we're going to hop into here is MK. So he's won 27 out of his 39 games, sitting here in 9th in the world standings, which is also quite high. No surprise there from our World Championship runner-up last year in 2024. 4.5k guesses, not quite as high as Radu C, but when he does get it, from what I've noticed, he is just right on the location. He does just have, he's just a knower. And as you can see, he's one of the faster players in terms of average guess time at 21.3 seconds. He likes to put that pressure on. And in moving, you can kind of see that kind of shows, because if his opponent is competent in moving, he's not going to panic with any of his moving guesses. It can ultimately end up hurting him, but he still has above that 50% win rate in moving, which is quite good. And to win 27 out of 39 games, going 27-12 in terms of your record, is also quite solid. And yeah, no surprise, MK's best mode is no move, much like Radu C. But he is quite competent in NMPZ as well. I would say moving, probably his weakest mode, but he does make up for that by just trying to put some pressure on, going for fast guesses. Maybe your opponent kind of trolls a bit. And yeah, he's good at recognizing stuff within 5 to 10 seconds and can ultimately put a nice guess down. So looking for MK to put a lot of pressure on in this tournament. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. He obviously gets a bye to the semifinals because he is the 2nd overall seed. So he will be playing the winner of Mu and Orlando, which should be interesting, I think, because Mu is someone that we will talk about right now. 24 wins out of 39 games, so a little 24-15 record for Mu there, 72 total points, which is quite good. His moving win rate is, of course, higher than his other 2 win rates. No real surprise there, I'd say. Mu probably one of the best moving players in the World League, if not in the Americas as well. I would say him and Radu C are on a comparable level. Fao is up there as well, but I don't really consider the other three to be moving players, but we'll go over that in a little bit. Yeah, so no surprise, his moving win rate is above 60%, which is quite high. Average guess time, pretty average, I would say. I'd say Radusi was probably hovering around this average guess time as well, like 36 or so. But yeah, it looks like that NMPZ win rate sitting at only 50%. If it does get there, it could be a little bit scary for Moo, so I'm sure he would like to get his business done in moving and no move, in which he excels a bit more in moving and no move overall. So we'll see how Moo does. I would say look for him to kind of cook on the moving games recently. He has been cooking. And if you guys watch Jake Lyons' series, he cooked in the moving game there as well against Jake, who's no slouch in moving. So yeah, definitely look for Moo to get out to an early lead in moving. All right, back into the standings here. I hate how I have to click back into the standings, but we got Fao, who's sitting at 18th position in the world rankings, 63 points, 21-1, 21 and 18, and his moving win rate almost 60%, slightly below Moo's, but that game win rate sitting at only above 50% by a slight margin. The 4.5k guesses rate over 50%, which is a good sign. It's very good to see. And I would say Fao, probably one of the more balanced players in the tournament. He's quite competent on all three modes, and I think that balance can help against certain opponents, and we'll see how he does going into this. I would say, you know, his strength's obviously Canada, as you know, but he is quite good, and I wouldn't really say he has a weakness, much like Moo, in any countries or in any mode. So look for both of the Canadians. They're pretty balanced, so look for both of them to stay balanced and hopefully just put up a good, consistent performance throughout all three modes in the best of 5. All right, next player that we'll be going into is Gingy here. -9 game differential, so they've won 17 games. So they're 17 and 22 on the season, so slightly below the Moo and Fao tier, whereas they had slight winning records. Gingy and Orlando have slight losing records, and his moving win rate is sub 50. Looks like all of his game modes are, which I guess being at a sub 500 win rate will do that to you overall. But there are some things that I feel like Gingy excels in. He is quite good at places like Mexico, and he also has a good knowledge of niche locations. I feel like he's done, I can't personally speak to this, but I feel like he's done a lot of mapping. He's put in the hours and played a lot of the games, and sometimes he'll just pull out an insane 499 guess just out of nowhere. So I think that really could make Gingy dangerous, and should be a good matchup for Fao overall. I do think Fao definitely has the edge in moving, but we'll go over that in our little bracket breakdown. But Gingy, I would say pretty well balanced. He's probably best in no move in NMBZ. Wouldn't necessarily call him a moving player. So we will see a contrast in styles a little bit against Fao and other players in this tournament. All right, last player to go over here is Orlando. Probably, I would say he's more of a no-move NMPZ player, but that's not really reflected in the stats. His moving win rate is a bit higher there at nearly 46%. 4.5k guess is still hovering around that 50% range, which is essentially where you want to be. But I do believe Orlando is going into the World League, or going into the Americas Major, on a bit of a downturn. I think he's lost the last 11 matches or something like that in the World League. You can kind of see the form here, just 10 X's, which is, you know, not great. Hopefully, you know, the Americas Major is a good reset for him, and he can get a couple of games under his belt. But the 11-game loss streak is not ideal going into the tournament. But hopefully that'll change for Orlando, and his fortunes will change as we move into the Americas Major in Dallas. Maybe a nice change of scenery, and hopefully a mental reset for Orlando on LAN. All right, let's go quickly over the bracket setup and the schedule here. So it's going to start on Friday, it looks like, at 1500 Central time, which is basically, I would say, for Central European Standard Time, it's going to be at, I want to say, at midnight. It's either at midnight or 11. It might be at 11, but one of the two. So 11 p.m. or midnight. And we got Fao versus Gingy to start us off, and then Mu versus Orlando shortly following that. Then you're going to take a big break. Players are going to get some sleep overnight. And then Radu C and MK will know who they're playing, and we'll have, a night to prep for whoever they're playing. I would say we'll go into the bracket breakdown here, but there are different contrasting styles that they probably need to prepare for. So I think it could be interesting to, a huge advantage, I guess, for our two top seeds to see who they're playing against and adapt their style accordingly. All right, moving into our bracket breakdown here, we have Fao playing against Gingy, which is going to be our first matchup here. And as I mentioned, two very contrasting styles. Fao, very well balanced in terms of his game modes. His moving win rate was a bit higher, as we did say. And I would say Gingy more of a no move and an MPZ player, as you saw his moving win rate dip quite down there, in the stats at least. And I do think Fao definitely has the edge in the moving games, and because it is a best of 5 format, you get 2 moving games, 2 NM games, and then the 1 NMPZ game if it does go to a game 5. But I do think Fao has a slight edge here just because of that. So we will see a Fao Radu C probably quarterfinal rematch, which is going to be my prediction. By quarterfinal rematch, I mean from last World Championship in 2024. They played each other, and Fao obviously won that 3-2. But hopefully Radu C can get his revenge. But we were predicting a Fao 3-1. I do think that Fao can take both of the moving games off of Gingy and sneak one of those 2 NM games in, because I feel like they are quite evenly matched on no move. I did say that Gingy kind of has that boom factor to him where he'll just absolutely 5k a random location that you just have never seen. So we'll see if that comes into play, but I do still think I'm quite confident with the Fao 3-1 over Gingy prediction. But I would not be surprised if Gingy was able to pull it out in a 3-2 kind of fashion in that way as well. But I think this is probably the most likely scenario I see in my head is a Fao 3-1. All right, Mu versus Orlando, our other quarterfinal here. This should be an interesting matchup because as like Fao, Mu is a very balanced overall player. He is quite good on moving. I would say right now, moving is probably his strongest mode in comparison to the field, right? Because most of these Americas players, I guess half of them aren't really that good at moving, and Mu has Orlando and MK, who probably aren't the best moving players in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, Orlando can definitely hold up to like a pretty good standard in moving, but I do think Mu is just a tier above in terms of moving, and I think Mu might be a better player. I will say Orlando does get quite a LAN buff. He is quite a good performer on LAN, as we saw in last World Championship. He was cooking pretty hard, and we'll see if that comes into play, because I know Mu has had his struggles on LAN in the past. He is a different player now. I would say he's improved a lot since the Americas qualifier, which happened in Stockholm last year. So I do think we will see a different version of Mu today. And we'll see if those two things come back to bite them, because I do think Mu has not had a good history of LAN in the past, as I mentioned, and Orlando has a really good history on LAN. But I do think Mu, as of right now, in terms of raw GeoGuessr skill, he's probably a just better player, in my opinion. And I do think he takes probably both of the moving games, and I think their no-move gameplay is quite evenly matched, if not accounting for LAN nerf, LAN buff. So once again, I will take a 3-1 here, I think, for Mu. So both of the Canadians moving on, I have. But don't discount Orlando on LAN. That's all I'll say as I make that prediction. All right, so we're going with Chalk to start off. And we have Radu C versus MK. Am I going with Chalk again? I haven't really thought this through. I do think this could be an interesting matchup, right? We have our quarterfinals from last year in the World Championship. Radu C versus Fao could be quite interesting, I think. But I think Radu just doesn't want to lose again, man. I talked to him a bit about it this past weekend when I saw him. I just feel like he's determined, and he seems pretty locked in right now. He seems pretty locked in. He wants to win. He wants to prove that he can win a major, that he can show out for his fans. So I do think Radu C will take this one. And I am going to take him in a probably 3-1 fashion. I think he's, as much as I think Fao is quite good at moving and he can definitely hold his own against Radu C, I will say I think Radu C is just probably just a more consistent moving player at this stage. I do think, you know, Fao can probably take a game, but I will take a 3-1 here. You know what? I might take a 3-0 here. I know Radu C, yeah, I think he just wins both of the moving and one of the no move. So I'll take Radu C in a 3-0. I think that's the first 3-0 I've predicted, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that holds up. All right, MK versus Moo. So I saw MK this weekend as well with Radu C. We were all together, essentially, for a different event. But MK and Moo, I think this could be an absolute barn burner of a matchup because they have very contrasting styles, right? Moo, of course, very solid at moving, very well balanced. I would say MK probably not the best moving player. That's probably just for a lack of trying though. Because honestly, I feel like he could be a good moving player, but he just can't be bothered. Like that's just the MK attitude that he brings into it. So I think it should be interesting. And we might be going all chalk here. We might, but we'll see. Thinking about this more, I do think Moo's balance is quite good, but once again, it determines on whether or not he can pull through on land. MK obviously has that experience on land. He made it to the World Championship final in 2024 against Blinky. Nearly won it as well. Lost in a unfortunate 3-2 fashion, but it was a crazy World Final nonetheless. Anyway, regardless, I do think MK has a bit more experience on land, and I think that could be a deciding factor. And yeah, we will take an MK 3-2 here. I think this is going to be a very good series because I do think Moo can take a moving game, or even both moving games. But I do think MK right now, although he calls himself a bit washed, which is what he told me this weekend, he's still probably one of the top no-move players regardless. And I think he has a bit of an edge on NMPZ if it does get there against Moo. So I will take MK in a 3-2 fashion, which means, guys, we're going chalk. We're going absolute chalk once again. Yeah, no surprise there. Went chalk for the APAC major. Didn't pan out. I will say, I think that one was a bit more balanced. Like, Eamon, I definitely could have seen winning, but yeah, it was interesting. Anyway, we got Radu C versus MK in the final. A matchup of two Titans. I know they practice with each other a lot and they play a good amount of GeoGuessr together, so it should be interesting to see. But from what I saw watching them play GeoGuessr this past weekend, I do think Radu C just knows MK's style and knows that he likes insta-sending, but I honestly think RC not really too phased by it. I did see a couple of blunders by RC, but I do think he's just, like, overall just quite determined to win. And the thing with MK is he is like very motivated to win as well. But I do think Radu C kind of wants to rectify his sins. I don't want to say sins, but like what happened in the past on LAN. So I will think that Radu C will take this one down in a 3-1 fashion. I think he can take both of the moving games. He doesn't really seem to panic when MK insta-sends, at least from what I've seen in the game tape. I have a little bit of insider information, and I think he can take one of those no-move games off of MK. So I will take Radu C to win the tournament full chalk in a 3-1 fashion. And that's going to be my predictions here, guys. I know this video went quite long. I was yapping a bit, but I do think I have a bit more insight into these players, a bit more than the APAC, because I do feel like I know them a bit better. Like, obviously saw MK and Radu this weekend, so yeah, got to see them in person, which definitely increased the yap, I would say, for this tournament. And yeah, that's going to be my predictions. Radu C winning in a 3-1 fashion. Oh, I forgot about the third place game. I didn't add that to the bracket here, but I'll just verbalize it for you. I think Moo probably wins that. I want to say in a 3-1 fashion over Fao. They are, of course, really good friends. They like see each other in person as well. quite often. But I do think Mu takes it in a 3-1 fashion. I think he's a bit of a stronger player right now. All right, with that and the third place game verbalized, that's going to be the conclusion to the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. All right, thank you guys for watching another prediction video here. Hopefully this one goes better than the APAC one, but we'll see. We'll see. You never know. I mean, I could just completely mess it up once again. But if you guys have predictions yourself, feel free to drop it down in the comments below. Can't wait to see who gets it right, who gets it wrong. And it's going to be a very good weekend, I think, this week. And yeah, if you guys are still here, by the way, Finbar and I will be co-streaming, I believe, on Friday and Saturday together. So we'll hop in a call together and discuss all of the games. And should be a good experience for y'all. So if you guys want, you can tune into my Twitch or Finbar's Twitch. We will have that shared chat going. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this video, of course. And I will see you guys tomorrow for another GeoGuessr video. Peace.